All right, today we're talking about one of the most useful tools in woodworking.
And also one of the tools people fear the most.
But before we get too deep into spinning blades and woodworking safety,
let's do this properly.
Welcome to ToolTalk Pro. Which, to be fair, is understandable. A table saw basically looks like someone attached a spinning blade to a table and said, "Good luck."
Not exactly the marketing slogan I would use, but yes, table saws demand respect.
And that's really the key word here, respect.
Because when used properly, a table saw is incredibly precise, efficient, and versatile.
But when used carelessly, things can go wrong very quickly.
Exactly. So today, we're breaking down how table saws work, how to use them safely, and the techniques that help you get clean and accurate cuts.
And hopefully, keep all 10 fingers in the process.
That would definitely be the goal.
Let's start simple. What exactly is a table saw?
A table saw is a woodworking machine where a circular saw blade protrudes through the surface of a table. The material moves across the table and through the blade during the cut.
So unlike a circular saw where the tool moves, here the wood moves instead.
Exactly. That setup allows for much more controlled and accurate cutting.
Which is why table saws are basically the centerpiece of a lot of woodworking shops.
Very much so. They're commonly used for ripping long boards, making repeated cuts, and creating very straight, consistent edges.
And once you use a good table saw properly, measuring things suddenly starts feeling suspiciously accurate.
That tends to happen.
Now let's address the giant spinning blade in the room.
Safety.
Because table saws are powerful, fast, and extremely unforgiving if used incorrectly.
That's why understanding safety is more important than understanding speed or power.
So what actually makes table saws dangerous?
One major risk is kickback. That happens when the wood gets pinched or caught by the blade and is thrown back toward the operator at high speed.
Which is woodworking's way of saying the table saw has returned your material aggressively.
That's one way to describe it.
And honestly, kickback is something a lot of beginners don't expect.
Exactly. People focus on the blade itself, but kickback is actually one of the most common causes of table saw injuries.
So how do you reduce those risks?
First, use the safety features the saw already provides. Things like the blade guard, riving knife, and anti-kickback pawls exist for a reason.
Which is important because a surprising number of people remove them immediately.
Unfortunately, yes, especially the blade guard.
Usually followed by the sentence,
"I'll put it back later."
And sometimes later never happens.
so what does the riving knife actually do?
It sits behind the blade and helps prevent the material from pinching the blade during a cut. That greatly reduces the chance of kickback.
So tiny piece of metal, very important job.
Exactly.
One thing beginners rarely think about is where they're standing.
And that's extremely important.
Because instinct says stand directly behind the wood.
Which is actually the worst place to stand if kickback occurs.
Right in the launch zone.
Exactly. Instead, you should stand slightly to the side of the blade path while maintaining good control of the material.
So if something does fly backward, hopefully it doesn't fly directly into you.
That's the idea.
Also worth mentioning, balance matters.
Absolutely. Never lean awkwardly over the blade or stretch too far during a cut.
All right, let's talk about hands. Specifically, keeping them away from the blade.
A very important topic.
Because people get comfortable surprisingly fast around table saws.
And comfort can lead to carelessness.
Which is where push sticks come in.
Exactly. Push sticks allow you to guide material through the blade while keeping your hands at a safe distance.
And yet beginners often think,
I probably don't need that.
Until the cut gets smaller and their fingers suddenly feel much closer to the blade than expected.
That's usually when the push stick starts looking like a fantastic idea.
Exactly.
All right, moving into technique. What's the most common cut people make on a table saw?
That would be a rip cut, which means cutting wood lengthwise along the grain.
And that's where the fence becomes important.
Very important. The fence helps guide the material consistently for straight cuts.
Which also means if your fence isn't aligned properly, your cut probably won't be either.
Exactly. Alignment affects both accuracy and safety.
What about cross cuts?
Cross cuts go across the grain, and those are usually done with a miter gauge or sled instead of using the fence alone.
And that's another beginner mistake, trying to force every cut the same way.
Different cuts require different setups.
So let's talk about mistakes people commonly make when starting out.
One big mistake is trying to force material through the blade too quickly.
Which usually sounds terrible immediately.
Exactly. The blade should cut smoothly. If the motor sounds strained or the cut feels unstable, something is wrong.
Another mistake is using dull blades.
Very true. A dull blade increases resistance, creates rougher cuts, and actually makes the saw more dangerous.
Which feels backwards, but makes sense once you think about it.
A sharp blade cuts cleaner and requires less force.
Also, distractions.
Absolutely. Table saws are not tools you use while multitasking.
This is not the moment to check your phone notifications.
Definitely not.
Something people don't talk about enough is how much dust table saws create.
And fine wood dust can become a serious health issue over time.
So if your workshop constantly looks like a snowstorm made of sawdust, maybe it's time for better dust collection.
Exactly. Good ventilation and dust extraction make a huge difference.
Plus, everything becomes easier to see when you're not surrounded by airborne wood particles.
That also helps.
So who is a table saw really for?
Anyone doing repeated woodworking cuts, furniture projects, cabinetry, or serious DIY woodworking.
Because once you need consistent, straight cuts regularly, hand tools start feeling very slow.
Exactly. Table saws improve both efficiency and precision.
But they also require patience and proper technique.
Very much so. This is not a tool you rush with.
At the end of the day, table saws are incredibly powerful tools.
But the real skill comes from using them safely and consistently.
Because woodworking gets a lot more enjoyable when your cuts are clean and your stress level stays low.
And when all your fingers remain exactly where they started.
Always an excellent outcome.
If you found this helpful, subscribe to ToolTalk Pro for more tool guides, safety tips, and workshop tutorials.
And we'll see you in the next one.